One of the hardest things I've ever had to grieve wasn't losing my mother. It was accepting that the mother I had was never going to be the mother I needed. Those are two very different kinds of grief. When someone has passed away, they're gone. The relationship is over. But when someone is still alive, there's always that lingering thought of what if? What if someday she changes? What if after my father is dead, maybe she'll stop protecting him? What if someday she realizes how much damage she's caused? What if someday things are different? I think that's one of the hardest things about family. It's not about grieving what happened. It's about finally letting go of what you hoped might happen afterward. When people think about grief, we usually think about death, but there are many, many different things that we grieve. We grieve failed marriages, lost friendships. We grieve career goals that never came to fruition or dreams that never came true. We grieve the childhood we wish we had, the parent that we needed. And sometimes those losses are often harder to even understand or talk about because no one else can see them. There is no funeral. There is no obituary. People don't think about loss in the same way just because you finally accepted that your mother was never going to become the person that you needed her to be. But it is still grief, and that is really important for us to acknowledge. Oddly enough, grieving the loss of my father was very different. I lost all trust in him the day he started hurting me when I was a child. And then when he finally went to prison, it was really more of a breath of relief. There was no grief there. There never was a question about whether we could somehow ever have a relationship. Prison made the decision for everyone if his treatment of us didn't. But my mother was different. My grief wasn't about losing her. It was about slowly accepting that I was never going to have the mother that I needed and the one that I really, really wanted. It's always been a little difficult to explain to people that I don't really miss my mother. I miss the relationship that I wish that we had had. I miss the idea of having a mother. I miss the concept as a whole. I don't miss the manipulation or the criticism. I don't miss constantly wondering what mood she's going to be in or what lies she's telling that day. I don't miss walking on eggshells. What I grieve is never having the relationship that I've watched other people have. The mother that they called when something exciting happened, or the mother who made them feel safe. The mother who celebrated them and their accomplishments. The mother who protected them. The one who made holidays feel warm instead of stressful. The one who loves without conditions. That is what I mourn, not what I actually had. That is the relationship I grieve, not the one that actually existed, because it didn't. And once I fully acknowledged the source of that grief, it became easier to stop waiting for reality to become this fantasy that I'd been mourning. Someone asked me recently when I finally accepted that my mother wasn't going to change. And the truth is, I don't think acceptance happened all at once. I think it happened very slowly. When I was 22 years old, that is when my father was arrested. And at first, I truly believed that my mother was going to step up and become this strong, independent woman that I had always longed and wished for her to be. I truly thought, surely this now changes everything for us. Surely now she's going to protect my sisters and protect us because he's gone. He's out of the picture. Instead, I watched her become more manipulative than I had ever seen before. She told my sisters horrible things. She manipulated them with guilt. She arranged meetings with my father without their consent. And so every boundary I tried to establish, she just found a way to railroad and push against it. Meanwhile, here I was, 22, raising my sisters. I was sacrificing my 20s, my marriage, my home, my finances, my future. I wasn't doing it because I wanted to be their parent. I was doing it because somebody had to. And here my mother was, only focusing on her own selfish desires, never once thinking what is best for her children. And I remember one day realizing that I couldn't keep waiting for her to become this person that we all wanted her to be and we needed her to be, because every day we waited and I was waiting, my sisters were paying the price. Eventually, I gave her an ultimatum, and I told her that if they ever came home crying ever again, that she would not be allowed to see them until they turned 18. That wasn't me trying to punish her. It was me protecting them. And I think that was the day, if I had to pinpoint an actual day, I think that was the day I stopped waiting and I really began to grieve this loss of a parent that I never was going to have. Not because necessarily I'd given up, but because hope wasn't protecting my sisters. Boundaries were protecting my sisters. And she could really never come back from where her selfishness had taken her at this point. And then there are holidays. And I think holidays have a really frustrating way of bringing grief back to the surface, kind of repeatedly over and over again. We see on social media people posting pictures of big family dinners and matching pajamas with the whole family and Christmas traditions and big Thanksgivings and lots of food and everyone's gathered around the table. And it's very happy and healthy and lovely. And if you grew up in a healthy family, that is wonderful. And I am truly, truly happy for you. But holidays growing up weren't peaceful for me. They were quite stressful. They were very unpredictable. And obviously as a child, it was horrible for its own reasons. And there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of control, a lot of walking on eggshells around my father especially. But then even with my father gone, those feelings didn't really change. They just transitioned. Now, even with my father gone, now I was dealing with my mother's manipulation around the holidays, her prying into my life and violating boundaries at every turn. I'd spend weeks leading up to the holiday super stressed and anxious about what was to come, and then weeks after the holiday, angry and irritated about what I knew was going to happen, and yet somehow I let it still get to me. And so when people ask me why I don't feel guilty about skipping family holidays once in a while, the honest answer is I'm not really giving something wonderful up. I'm really just protecting my peace at that point. And to be clear, I don't skip all of them. It's kind of easier now that I'm married again and we rotate holidays with each of our families. But sometimes I still just say, I can't do it. I'm not going. I don't want to deal with that this year. And so I'm protecting that peace that I've worked very hard to build. Now, one holiday that I absolutely love and adore is actually Halloween. Not because it's spooky or because of candy. I mean, everyone loves spooky candy and costumes, but because I get to create it and make it my own. I invite the people that I love, the people that make me feel safe, the people who bring joy into my life. And there's no obligation. There's just intention. If people want to be there, they can. If they can't, that's okay too. And it's become an amazing tradition, our annual Halloween party, because that's when the chosen family all comes together and we get to have a wonderful evening just with the people I care about. Now, with any holiday, there are still moments when I think about what could have been, or what should have been, or the traditions I wish I'd grown up with or had more positive memories of. And those feelings still come. I don't think they will ever truly stop, but they simply remind me of what I hope to build for my own family instead. I am in control of my future and how I make the holidays with my own family. And I can build them in a way that makes me feel safe and happy. And then there is acceptance. I used to think acceptance meant kind of approving of what happened or accepting that I'm okay with it, but it really doesn't. Acceptance doesn't mean saying that it's okay. It doesn't mean pretending that someone didn't hurt you. That's ridiculous. Acceptance simply means stopping your life from depending on that person becoming someone different. I don't need my mother to become the mother that I deserved and always wanted in order for me to build a beautiful life. I don't need her in it. I can grieve that loss and still move forward. Both of those things can absolutely be true. But grieving is still hard. And there are many sources that give many wildly different suggestions about how to grieve the loss of a parent who is still alive. And that phrase, by the way, is called ambiguous loss or disenfranchised grief. I thought that was interesting. I didn't actually have a term for it before. But what I've done is I've kind of looked at different sources and I've compiled some of my favorite tips and ones I've used here. So if you're navigating this kind of loss, I hope these tips might help you as well. The first big bucket talks about acknowledging the complexity. Validating your trauma is really important. Emotional abuse, neglect, broken boundaries cause very legitimate trauma. And you're not broken because you're grieving. What you're feeling is a very normal response to that trauma. As part of that complexity, you should expect mixed emotions. Relief, guilt, anger, and deep sadness can all coexist as you're grieving. And sometimes they can pop up very unexpectedly, especially around holidays or other important dates in your life. And so knowing those triggers and what can bring up those emotions can sometimes help you to manage your own expectations of yourself along the way. As part of the complexity, I think it is really important to identify the loss, like we talked about earlier in the video. You are grieving the ideal parent, not the real one that we got, unfortunately. The real one was not a good one, or you wouldn't be in this situation in the first place. And a huge part of that complexity is accepting the ambiguity that goes with it. The lack of physical closure makes healing very non-linear, and that is really hard. I get it. And then, of course, we have the crux of the last several videos, which is protecting your boundaries. Commit to that distance. Remind yourself why you chose estrangement during moments of weakness or temptation to deviate from your own boundaries. I occasionally do the little sticky note reminders on my desk with little positive thoughts that I want to ingrain in my psyche, and those little validations can be really helpful sometimes. Muting communication channels. We talked about this in the last video, but I really encourage you to mute phone numbers or filter emails to prevent those unexpected emotional triggers until you're ready to deal with them, if you're ever ready to deal with them. And another thing is scripting your responses in advance. One thing you can do is prepare these short, very neutral responses for family members, especially the nosy ones who want to talk about what's going on. You can just have some things to prepare about why there are boundaries, or if you're not going to talk about it, why it's none of their business. And the other thing that you could even do is proactively send a blurb out to those family members, explaining that boundary if you need them to back you up. And then there is anticipating milestones. Understanding what you know is going to bring up some of those grief responses. Plan some extra self-care around those holidays, birthdays, family gatherings, special dates that are important. Don't feel bad about skipping an event in order to protect your own health and your mental sanity during those events. Holidays are just man-made days designed to bring people together for one reason or another, and skipping them because it's the healthiest thing for you is totally fine. Or you don't want to skip them, host your own with your chosen family, whatever makes you happy. But anticipate those milestones and think about how you want to deal with it so it doesn't sneak up on you unexpectedly. And then there's a couple tips for processing the emotion. And I love this first one, which is write unsent letters or send them. I've never done that. Just kidding. Pour your anger and sadness into that paper and then you can destroy it. Or if you really need to, you can send it. I always enjoy, if I'm processing something, to write it out and then burning it in a fireplace, maybe throw in some incense as well. It's a very symbolic way of destroying that anger and letting it go into the universe, and it is no longer my problem. And the next big one is build your chosen family. Surround yourself with friends and loved ones who offer unconditional safety and support. And remember that your chosen family can also be fluid, especially if you find yourself gravitating to abusive people due to your own past. You may need to do some healing before you choose that chosen family. And one tip a therapist gave me once was about reparenting your inner child. Give yourself that validation, the praise, the comfort that you missed out on. You are awesome the way you are. Remind yourself of that. Remind yourself that you deserve love and that you deserve peace. And then lastly, I would say seek specialized therapy. Look for a very good trauma-informed therapist who's familiar with that family estrangement and those dynamics, because that is huge, at least it has been for me, helping me along my journey. Not all therapists are built the same, and you have to make sure that they're the right fit for you and what you're going through, or else it may not do any good in the long run. For a long time, I thought that healing meant somehow magically fixing the relationship, or maybe I was waiting for an apology or hoping my mother would someday turn into this woman that I'd always hoped for her to become. But I do believe now, after years of therapy and healing, that healing looks very different than that. I think healing is grieving the relationship I wish I'd had and accepting the one I actually had. And it means deciding that my future does not depend on someone else becoming a different person. Because the truth is, I can't change my childhood. I can't change my parents. I can't rewrite what happened. But I can stop waiting for yesterday to become something it never was. And somehow that acknowledgement has brought me much more peace than hope ever did. Thank you for being here with me. I'm Janae Cherie, and I hope that my stories help you to tell yours.